Welcome to another episode of the Ice Talks, where we implement change every day. Hey, how you doing? Welcome back to another episode of the Ice Talks. I am Harold S. Reed Jr., also known as hrjr, your motivational coach. And if you don't know what motivation means, motive plus action equals results, and results equals success. This is my first episode broadcasting whilst we are going through the coronavirus pandemic. It is May 19th. My children have been out of school. I presume most of our children have been out of school since early mid-March. Many states, I know for a fact, in my state of New Jersey, our kids will not be finishing school in school. The school year has been canceled regarding in presence being on site, shall I say. But I will say that through communicating with my youngest child's teacher, and my wife communicates with my oldest son's teacher. So my youngest son, I take the responsibility of dealing with his teacher and his schooling, and my wife takes the responsibility of dealing with his teacher and his schooling. But with my younger one, I was able to get his teacher to learn about and get on Zoom. So by the end of March, because the first week was horrendous, I got to tell you guys, I don't know how, man, I know everybody was freaking out. I'm not going to even say I don't know. I know a whole lot of people were freaking out that first week of homeschooling, distance learning, whatever the hell they want to call it. It was hell. It was hell because they just gave us a packet of papers and said, okay, see to it that he gets it done and, let us know he did it and bring it back to school or what have you. The second week, they were talking about, okay, so we got Google Meet and we got Google Classroom and we got this website and that website. And apparently it was like these were websites that the kids had been using throughout the year. But I honestly didn't know that they were like using the computers like that in school. But so the second week was kind of hectic. And at the end of the second week, I almost flipped because the superintendent of schools in my town had the nerve to send out a survey asking how they were doing. And I kind of freaked a little bit. I flipped out a little bit. I was polite. I didn't cuss or nothing, contrary to what people may think about me when I get extremely upset. But what I also did was I had a conversation with my son's teacher, like I said, and introduced her to Zoom. And ever since his class, she took a weekend to learn about Zoom, educate herself about Zoom, and ever since his class and his classmates, they have 2 sessions a day with her on Zoom, and then the rest of the work we get done on Google Classrooms, and there's several different other platforms that they use for the textbooks and the videos and so on and so forth. So after that first couple weeks, we kind of mellowed out. So the school thing is pretty good. Everything else for me, it is what it is. I'm just watching people freak out and watching people not take it seriously. And me being the Libra that I am, I have balance. I always strive for balance. I want to balance myself between not thinking that the world is going to end. This is not the dawning of the zombie apocalypse, but at the same time can't deny that people who have not been taking this seriously, and some people who are just wrong places, wrong times, have been seriously affected by this. I have several friends, several of my fraternity brothers. And if any grooves are listening, I know we don't use the word fraternity, but I'm speaking to a broad audience, so that's how they understand it. So my Groove Fi Groove Social Fellowship Incorporated brethren, a couple brothers, more than a couple, have been affected, infected, and have, fortunately, to my knowledge, none have passed away from it. But I definitely know of a few who have been infected as well as affected by it. We've all been affected by it because at this point, we all know someone who has passed away or know someone who has passed away. So we can't not take this seriously. So again, as I said, me being the Libra that I am, I have to maintain the balance between not going over the cliff thinking this is the dawn of the zombie apocalypse, yet at the same time taking this seriously. So I go to a couple of places where I know it's safe. Don't worry about where they are. But I follow the protocols everywhere else I go. I wear the mask when I go into a store, Walgreens or something like that. And my wife and I, we pretty much make do. And I hope the best can be said for the rest of you. Fortunately for my wife and I, our businesses have been in-home businesses for years. So we're not really hell-bent on having to go outside. And as far as social distancing, it's funny when you have, I have my office in my home. She pretty much runs the downstairs portion of the house. That's because I'm always in my office and she's always downstairs. So we're 2 floors apart from one another. My oldest son, he's 17. He's always in his room doing whatever 17-year-olds do in their rooms. And my youngest son is always in the game room. So all 4 of us in the house are actually social distancing by default because that was actually our normal. I'm in my space. My oldest is in his space. My wife is in her space. And the little one is in his space. Everybody is in their space. So we're kind of social distancing by default. So none of this is really affecting my household in a negative way. And I say all of that to say I am truly blessed because I know there are people out there who have been, their employment has been affected, their income has been affected, and it's really sad. And I feel for these people. I pray for these people. And I hope that there's as a matter of fact, let me rephrase that whole thing before I get it out. I know that there's a light at the end of this particular tunnel. I've always said that going through life is like being on the subway going through a tunnel. All right. There are times, especially on the New York City subway. I don't know if they've changed over the years because it's been quite a few years since I've been on the New York City subway. But I remember when I was little and I'd be on the subway, there are times you go to certain little patches in the tunnels, the lights flicker on and off. So sometimes the lights go out for a few seconds and sometimes they come on and sometimes you're in the darkness of the tunnel or whatever. But eventually you get to your destination and you get out and you get over, you get through the tunnel, and this is no different. This is no different. But I say all of that to say, and I know I've taken quite a bit of time, but I haven't spoken to you guys in a while, so I wanted to get those things off my chest. But what I really want to talk to you about, because I want to prepare you for when this is over. I want to prepare you for when this is over. What are you going to do when this is over? First of all, the one thing I refuse to accept, and even say is that we are living in the quote unquote new normal. Hell no. This is not the new normal. This is the new now. Let me say that again. This is not the new normal. This is the new now. This too shall pass. Do not forget, this too shall pass. What if the people who lived during the days of the bubonic plague and smallpox and polio, what if they just accepted what they were going through as the new normal? See, I believe that once you accept something as the new normal, it becomes your present. And when you there's one thing about living in the moment, and there's one thing about staying in the moment. So you live for the moment. The moment fleets. Moments are fleeting. So when you live in the moment, you really say, okay, now, and now, and now, and now, and now. But when whatever now is passes, that moment is done, you got to move on to the next thing. But when something becomes your new normal, it becomes your new reality. It becomes your new way of living. And there's just some things I refuse to accept as my new normal. So I personally refuse to accept that this life we are living amidst this coronavirus pandemic is the new normal. The same way I refuse to, and I'm not going to go too deep into politics, but the same way I refuse to accept that Donald Trump is the quote unquote new normal. No, he is these 4 years. He is these 4 years, right? And it's really sad. Like I said, I'm not going to get too deep into politics, but I mean, there's a whole lot that has pretty much gone to hell in the past 3 years and change, you know. And yes, I will blame him. But I'm not going to get all into too deep into detail into that. That's just my personal opinion on the matter. But even still, you know what? Worst case scenario, and this will be my last point on that, man. Worst case scenario, he does get reelected somehow, right? We know, or we strongly believe, that this election wasn't legitimate. And we will strongly believe that if he gets reelected, that would not be or would not have been a legitimate win. However, nonetheless, if it happens, guess what? It's only 4 years. And that sounds easy to say. Y'all, for those of you who really follow me, you know how I feel about the saying, something's easier said than done. All right? But I want you to understand that there was a time when people were looking in 2016, November 2016, January 2017, like that was the dawn of the zombie apocalypse, or the, you know, the foreboding pending doom. And well, we're kind of living through it with the way things are going. But guess what? 2020, here we are. It's an election year, and we'll see what happens. And I'll leave it at that. My point being, right? We're going through these things. We are living through the first term of a Donald Trump presidency. And if he gets reelected, unfortunately, we'll have to endure another 4 years. And God only knows where we'll end up then. But you know what? I believe we will live our way through that too. Because there's so much that we as a species on this planet, please pay close attention to what I'm saying at this point. I'm not talking about us as Americans. I'm not talking about us as black people, for those of my brothers and sisters who are listening. I'm not talking about us as, you know, human beings on this continent. No, I'm talking about us as a species on this green rock somewhere floating around the omniverse. I'll go beyond the universe. I'll go beyond the galaxy, the omniverse. We are like grains of sand on a beach. Okay? And think about all that we on this planet, on this rock, think about all the things that we as a species, the things that have been faced and overcome before we were even born. For the majority of you, if not all of you listening to this, because I doubt very seriously there are people in their 70s listening to this, in their 60s listening to this. And if there are, God bless you. Thank you for listening. You are probably in the minority. But even still, even if there people that age listening to this podcast, there are things that we as a species on this planet have faced and overcome to get us to where we are today. So why not think and believe that what we're going through now is something that we cannot face and overcome, so that our future generations will be able to look back when they have their issues, when they have their version of COVID-37 or whatever comes up then, you know? Think about all the things that have happened: measles, mumps, rubella, chickenpox, smallpox, bubonic plague, herpes, AIDS, HIV, syphilis. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm saying just look at all these things and some things, cancer, all these things. Some things we've been able to cure, some things we've been able to kind of tamper down, and some things we just got to live through and deal with. See? The most important thing is that we deal with these things, we live through these things, and we grow through these things. This is not the new normal. This is the new now. Now does not equal the future. This is the new now. And guess what? Tomorrow might be the still now. The day after tomorrow might be the still now. But if you believe that there will be a day when we don't have to worry about this, there will be a day when we could go back to not having to wear a mask going into the store. We can have a day where we can actually go back to these restaurants instead of getting the takeout, because the takeout sucks. Because there's nobody you can complain to, because you can only go in the place to pick the food up, and those places are few and far between, because everything else is curbside delivery. I'm talking about there's gonna come a day when we get past all of that. That's what I'm looking forward to. That's why I refuse to allow what's going on to get in my head. Let me tell you guys something. I used to be on CNN every day. Not on CNN, but I mean watching. I used to be watching. I had my TV on CNN. When I was driving in my car, I would always have the Sirius XM on CNN. I was a serious news head, right? And even almost every motivational speaker that I've learned from, studied from, listened to over the years, most if not all of them have said, do not pay attention to the news, because it's going to do nothing but bring you down. And me being the smart ass that I am, I'm like, well, I'm going to listen to it to the extent that I'm informed, but I'm not going to let it, just change, I'm not going to allow it to put a cloud over my head. I'm not going to allow it to put a cloud over my head. And when it got to the point, especially with this man in the White House now, it just got to the point where I saw a storm of brewing. So I said, you know what? I got to back away from this. I have to back away from this. So I don't pay, I pay not as much attention as I did before to the news, but still just enough to be informed. So I pay close enough attention to be informed, but not enough to where it's going to upset me. It's going to get me. And the crazy thing is, when my wife is not, actually when she's not enjoying her hobby of gaming or whatever, Call of Duty or whatever, and she's working at the computer or the TV's on, chances are it's on CNN. And I gotta get her to say, baby, back away, because sometimes I walk in the door and she be like, you know what just happened, and then I gotta talk her off the ledge because something she saw on CNN, pissed her off or whatever. But again, let me bring this back to saying this is not the new normal. Repeat it after me. Say it out loud. This is not the new normal. See, the pause in me saying that was so that you could actually say it. So now that let's do this again. Repeat after me. This is not the new normal. Keep going. All this is the new now. Yes, this is not the new normal. All this is the new now. And this too shall pass. we will find ourselves someplace better. And we will find ourselves stronger. See, we going through some stuff that ain't nobody ever been through before. And I got to tell you something. I'm disappointed in a lot of people. I'm disappointed. And that doesn't sound motivational. Well, it ain't supposed to be. It's honest. I'm telling you the truth. There are a lot of people I'm disappointed in, because people don't believe that I've always said, let me gather my thoughts for a hot second. I have always said that we live in a society where people are not held accountable to their convictions. People are not held accountable to their convictions. You could talk all the smack in the world and nobody will call your bluff, right? And I've always been the type of person for I would say most, if not all of my adult life, I'm not going to bluff you. If I tell you I'm going to do something, chances are I'm going to do it. If I tell you I'm going to talk to somebody about something, chances are I'm going to do it. If I listen, and let me throw a disclaimer out there. I do not condone unnecessary violence. I'm very specific in what I'm saying. I do not condone unnecessary violence. But let me tell you this. If I were to say to you, if ABC were to happen and you were at fault, I'm punching you in your face, best believe I'm willing to deal with the consequences of punching you in your face. So to quote Jay-Z in was it 93 Bonnie and Clyde, let's not let the necessary occur. I'll do anything necessary for her, so let's not let the necessary occur. But we live in a society where people are not held to accountable to their convictions. And when somebody finally does step up and call that bluff, then everybody, the whole world is thrown off kilter. See? And where we are right now, the whole world is thrown off kilter. I'm going to go back to Donald Trump. That is the secret sauce of Donald Trump's political existence, right? He has called everybody's bluff. He has called everybody's bluff, right? And I've always said this over the past 3.5 years, 3 3/4 years, however long we've been dealing with this fool. 4 years, including the campaigning and whatnot, right? I've always said we will owe this man a debt of gratitude because he will have exposed just how much the dog has no fangs or the snake has no fangs, however that saying goes. There's no teeth to the government. There's no teeth to the government. This man has been able to get away with God knows how much crap. I mean, think about it. If you know what you know because you saw it on CNN or even Fox or whatever news source, valid news source that you trust, there's still stuff we don't know. But this man has pushed the limits to the extent of impeachment and had people step up and say, yeah, we're working with them, so we're going to make sure that it doesn't happen. They told you on TV that this wasn't, he ain't getting out. We got him. We got his back. He going to be all right. We're going to go through this little song and dance, but at the end of the day, he going to be all right. And it happened, but nonetheless, we need to understand that we are living in a time where we have to hold ourselves accountable to our convictions. See, because there will come a time, and again, like I said, we're living in that time. We're living in a time in which somebody's going to come and knock you off your ass, and you ain't going to know what the hell to do about it. And here we are. This COVID-19, and for some of you listening, if I'm helping you, well, I hope I'm helping all of you, but for this specific point, if you happen to be today's years old when you find out that COVID-19 stands for coronavirus disease 2019, because This 2019 was when they actually discovered this particular strain of the coronavirus. But as it has affected the globe, as it has affected the planet, as it has affected us as a species, right? We are being knocked off of our proverbial asses in terms of how we're dealing with this. Now, we could go all into the, Trump got rid of the measures that Obama had put in place. I don't care about that. I care about that, but not for the purposes of what we're talking about here and now. What I want you to understand, what I want you to walk away from this episode, from this podcast, I want you to walk away with the knowledge, the faith, and the belief in your heart that there will come an end to this, and you will be all right. You may be bumped, you may be bruised, you may be twisted and turned and taken upside down and all around, but we will come out the other side. You guys, a lot of you guys already know the difference between a lump of coal and a diamond is that the diamond withstood the pressure better. So what is your plan for yourself and your family and your loved ones and your friends and everyone you care about when this is all over? What are your plans? How do you see yourself? Do you see yourself as a lump of coal, or do you want to see yourself as a diamond? And please don't start singing the song Shine Bright Like a Diamond by Rihanna, because, sorry, baby girl, diamonds don't shine, they reflect. I'm sorry, that's a little science, little geology for you right there. I'm not, I got a little bit of education. But listen, the most important thing I want you to understand, I'm going to say this again, this is not the new normal. This is just the new now. And this too shall pass. We're going to be all right. We're going to see our way through this. We're going to get through this. Yeah, we got to wait for them to come up with a vaccine. But guess what? There was a time when we had to wait for them to come up with a vaccine for measles. There was a time we had to wait for them to come up with a vaccine for mumps. There's a time we had to wait for them to come up with a vaccine for chickenpox, rubella, the smallpox, polio. All these things, there was a time, so I've been told, so I've heard, and so I've read, that you get with the wrong man or you get with the wrong woman, and you start feeling that burning sensation. Guess what? They came up with a shot for that too, right? So now we just have to wait and fall back and wait for those professionals to come up with whatever the vaccine is going to be for this. And it's going to take time. That's what you have to understand. This is all going to take time. For those of you who really follow me, how many times have you heard me say everything in life is a process and all processes take time? Everything in life is a process and all processes take time. We're going through a process right now. We're going through a process and all processes take time. This is not the new normal. This is only the new now. And this too shall pass. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Ice Talks, where we implement change every day.